Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions. You are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 10, episode 3. I do appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video, and also you can subscribe. Leave your comments below. Let's get into this episode. Okay, so we begin where we left off in last week's episode. Not much more than what we've seen from last week's episode to even what the preview was. We know that Ken and Marquez got into a tussle. And you see that Zay has to come down to try to get his dad together. It looks like a routine thing that happens a lot. Because we even saw last season where it was Zay trying to calm down his dad in situations that are happening. When they had the graduation barbecue or whatever. We didn't get to see the fight. It would have been... Some people, I don't know. Audiences are fickle. Because they'll be so, ooh, I want to see the fight. But then want to judge it once it comes out. It is very weird how people are. They're very hypocritical. I'll say that much. Like, you want to see the fight, but then at the same point, you want to judge and say, how dare they do this? And is this black excellence? Which I hardly believe in the hoopla of black excellence, whatever. But anyways, we didn't get to really see anything. But Marquez, and as I said in previous reviews, I believe that this was the week that Marquez went to Instagram Live. Now, to call out Mr. Carlos and the production and all that, he doesn't really get a say. As far as I know, is that he can't film with them anymore. I don't know if it's this episode or maybe there's something in the future. I don't know. But he was mad because he didn't have a say anymore. I don't understand why you didn't at least comply. Ken was giving you a lot of outs, even that night. You wanted to get mad. Maybe you didn't like the paper in your face, but you kept lying. Or not wanting to hear the truth. I'll just say that much. They showed you proof that the children's names were, or the minors were on the divorce paperwork. You're getting up. Ken said, sit down or leave. No, you didn't. You were too busy getting all huffy puffy, saying, I don't know who he think he's talking to like this. Da, 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 da. It's not even your home. So what are you talking about? So Ken just got up and he got tired of you disrespecting him. You've been disrespectful from the beginning. You never apologized for what you did. And now talk about, we should have been setting up boundaries. And then when they tell you about certain things, okay, so how can we move forward? We've been trying to move forward with you for so long, Ninja. Whatever. That was it for that. I don't have anything else to say. Hopefully Marcus is no more on the show, whatever, because it's a nuisance. He don't want to move forward. He loves being stuck in the past. If it's about your children, it should not be like this. Trish, we'll talk about her later. Okay, Scott's 2.0. Kimmy is talking with Tisha about planning a get-together, just the ladies, just to kind of get a temperature check because the whole group hasn't been around each other since the reunion. And then after she just established all that, I guess she made all her communications, she's having a date night with Maurice. And it looks like it's at their home, but I thought that was under renovations. Wherever they were at, there was a nice little deck area in the back. It looked nice. I thought maybe that was their place. I don't know. We weren't explained anything. Kimmy talked about that she went to go see Jalen and all that. And Jalen's kind of, I said bestie, but kind of, she did say best friend or whatever. They got a really tight relationship. Kimmy talked to Jalen about joining the family business, I guess, about with real estate and all that, because you know Jalen can do property and all that. And he said no. And he was like, I don't really think I want to do that because working with Maurice, you don't really work with him because it's more of a dictatorship. And Kimmy is in her confessional saying, you know, that's how they kind of butt heads at. And her and Jalen, Kimmy and Jalen, are more of a less talk, more action. Maurice is more of a Dr. Martin Luther King dude and just needs to shut up. I guess he just wants to hear himself talk, whatever. But they're just like, let's get going with it and get it done. And then also, Jalen went further to say how he feels about Maurice. He does not look to Maurice as a father figure, and he's more of this homeboy mentor. And he considers Marceau to be more of a father figure. I thought that was interesting because of how the dynamic with Jalen, Tisha, and Marceau when he was at Black. I don't know if he's still the general manager there or not, but it looks like he moved on. Well, not the general manager, or something. I think he was the general manager. How he didn't like how, and he does say something about how Marceau and Maurice are in this whole, and how they handle business and all that later on. But I remember when it was just like, I need a little help. I just graduated. I just got my degree, and they just basically had put me in situations that aren't helpful. You just figure it out. So at this point, I guess Maurice is going to just talk to him just to see what's up there. We move on to the Fletchers. Nell is taking this class. It's a class to get quality stars for daycare. You take these classes, the more stars you get, the more funding you get. I guess this is something to do with the government. And they did say that they have a real estate business, daycare, and a cleaning business. And I didn't know that part, the cleaning business. She knows that Kimmy has invited her to come out, and I guess this will be a time to really find out where she stands with the ladies, because they have not spoken to each other since LA. LA meaning the reunion. She's very interested to know where she stands with Destiny, especially with Destiny saying, which was still during the last season, about she has to really rethink her relationship after Nell invited Sunny to her bachelorette party for her remarriage, or vow renewal. That's what it was, and all that good stuff. So that's it. The ladies' night out. We find out that Destiny couldn't make it. She was, I think Kimmy said something about TikTok, whatever. You ain't there. A group question was, how do they get to know each other more? So basically, you could just tell that they're not friends, and they got to find a way to get along with each other and not have personal biasness for whatever reason. And I forgot who said it, but they said basically, we got to be around each other more. I mean, call each other. That is the only way that this group is going to sustain. And I think it's time out for, if y'all just here, I don't know why you guys are here. I don't know. If you guys are not going to work as a group, as a team, we don't care about the comeback group, even though Marcel mentions that later on, but for a different reason. If y'all just can't, I would love for the show to last. I just think that it's time to put egos aside and just do your job and treat each other with some type of respect, whether you're going to be friends or not. As far as besties, come on. If you want to make the show work. And you guys have an opportunity to turn the show around and make a new era. We got rid of a heavyweight. We got rid of, I don't want to do this. I know how I feel about Mel, but I don't want to I don't know how to say it, but we know the specific drama that was happening due to what was birthed out of Mel's stuff that she had going on. I'll just say it that much. And it's been weighing heavy, and we really couldn't move forward. So we got rid of that, and I think you guys have a chance to really thrust forward if you guys really want to thrust forward. So let's do it. Trish, she talks about how Marquez is, and what happened between Ken and Marquez. Trish is really opening up, if y'all haven't noticed. Last season she could hardly open her mouth when she was talking. So, whatever. I don't know how y'all feel about her, but whatever. Kimmy talks about the whole Jalen situation with Maurice. About what Jalen said about Maurice. Kimmy does admit that Maurice is very hands-off when it comes to the children. I think Tisha said something about Marcel thinks that Jalen as a son. I think she said that, but I didn't remember. Anyways, Nell starts talking about stuff that's going on in her life, because I think a question was asked about this whole Lance thing. They didn't have a chance to really hang out after the reunion, because at that time, Lance's baby mama was having a child. Nell says that she knew nothing about it until the time that the water bottle broke and the woman was going into labor. I said, what? So I thought that this family was closer than that, since they got meals and all that. I don't know, because that is totally weird that you're just having babies out there. You're grown, but you mean to tell me that you can't tell your parents that you're having another child? It's not like you're not a grown adult. And it's not like you were having a baby as far as you were cheating on your wife or whatever. We know that you were getting a divorce and all that. So I don't understand the mystery in that. They talked about, Chris Jr. having a child now, which was around the same time. At this point, Nell was like, okay, y'all gonna get off of me. Well, first she was like, well, Tisha was like, well, I was wondering, like, why would Nell be setting or approving of Destiny being with Lance, knowing how Lance was doing it? So she was glad that was cleared up. Then Nell said, y'all ain't gonna stay on me. Let's talk about y'all. In specifics, Tisha and Kimmy. What did y'all think of Martell's interview with that woman? Tisha basically said whatever we said on that IG live, and that's all I gotta say about talking about it. Nell in her confessional was saying, look, you're not gonna ask me all the questions and you're not answering anything. Honestly, I didn't watch it. I just seen the woman on the promo, and that was it. Because I was like, this is ridiculous. And Kimmy basically said, and this is my words, the interview flopped. Like, if that's the person that you think Maurice was with, or whoever was with, no. And Kimmy also brought up that, Maurice feels a way about Chris in regards to what he said to Mel last season about how they would handle things about cheating is for the women to sign NDAs. Nell said, that's her husband. I'm still going to support him, but I can't control everything that he has to say and all that. In our confessional, Nell said, since I know that Maurice is feeling away, I'm going to talk to Fletcher about it. That's what she calls her husband, even though his name is Chris. Yeah. Next up, we got Maurice and Jalen. They talk a little bit about what's going on in Jalen's life. They are shooting pool someplace. He's got a lot of different trades that he's doing. He's now an IT specialist, so I guess he's out of the restaurant business. And he's applied for some jobs, and he might be moving to Colorado. And Maurice just brought up, what about the family business? And Jalen said, well, I don't know about that, because does everybody want to play their role, or is it going to be the same thing that is going on? Basically, there's this hierarchy of people that Marceau just going to be the one to dictate this and say this, and you figure it out, and you be the dictator talking. That's not something I'm really wanting to be a part of. They start talking about their relationship and how Jalen was feeling about Maurice's treatment towards him. He says that he feels like he was treated different than Maurice Jr. He feels like the responsibility was on him, to do this. You could tell me to do something, and Maurice Jr. is just sitting right there, and he just didn't like how he was treated. And again, he reiterates, I didn't really feel like, it seemed like there wasn't the same structure that you had for him than the other one. Maurice said, was there a difference in love? Did you think that there was a difference in love? He just says, as far as treatment, he feels like, yes, because, hey, Maurice Jr. is your child. I wasn't your child. And then Maurice was blown away. Like, well, even if you're not my child, I still chose your mother. So I did choose you to be my child also. In essence is what he was saying. Jalen says, growing up, I really didn't want to get attached to you. Because he said, just in case you and my mom didn't work out, it just wasn't, no. I didn't want to do that. And also, I don't think that Maurice was inviting. In his confessional, he said, you do raise your children differently. I know that there is a specific role that the oldest child has to follow, because they put a lot of responsibility. Now, if we go back to old school, the parents would just have children, go to work, and just put the oldest children in charge. And it's basically, you have the mama sister type of deal, or possibly brother dad type of situation going on. The man of the house, especially if you have a single mother, and all that good stuff. All these responsibilities, all that, you can't do nothing, you're just restricted. And I feel like that still goes on, and I don't think that with this old school parenting that people are really sifting through what really works with old school parenting and what's not working. And really, for me, I really don't get it anymore. He's going to explain a little bit later on about how he was raised. It's really F-U-C-K how you were raised at this point. With all them speeches that you have to give, you are still giving yourself the excuse to not be the best that you can be. But you know how to. I'll get to him I'll get to Maurice in just a second. But he says, well, even though they were raised different, it looks like I still did a good job. All because Jalen has a career, because he's got a degree, and not getting into trouble as far as jail and all that. You think you did a good job. And while the outside looks good, they're broken on the inside. They don't know how to be emotionally available to anyone else. They don't have any real connections and all that good stuff. Like, y'all worried about the outer so much that you forget about the inner, parents. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, so basically in pure fashion, as far as Maurice, he don't listen. He don't really listen. Ken, he goes to his friend's barbershop, Will, and Chris comes. Ken still wants to get some advice from older seasoned people, especially with Chris moving on to the next relationship, you know, how to get help. They talk a little bit before segueing as Ken was trying to find a way to talk about this whole situation. But anyways, Lance helped in fixing up Ken and Trisha's home gym. Remember they talked about that, I think, in the first episode? Then Chris was like, oh, he did your spot up? Well, he still ain't came around and did anything for his mama as of yet. And I know Mel is somewhere yelling. Y'all know that. Hopefully I said Nell, not Mel. But anyways, so then Ken was able to try to segue into this whole Marquez situation. And he just feels like Marquez wants to play on his niceness. I try to be nice, I try to work out, da-da-da-da-da. And he takes advantage of that, and then everything just goes to hell. It's a difficult puzzle that we have going on. And they're like, well, she's not really divorcing him and all that good stuff. You know, Ken wants to say the only problem that they got in their relationship is Marquez. But this woman that you've been pushing to see if she wants to get married still hasn't still has not wanted to get married and is not ready for your proposal because of her own personal issues towards her previous, well, still marriage, and also because of the simple fact that she's not divorced. Da, 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 da. And the friend was like, look, you're in a bad situation. You're in a bad situation right now, and I think that you're making it more difficult for yourself. You're just blaming one person for this, and you're acting like there's no problems, da, 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 but this man. He said, you know, for a while we didn't really have to deal with anything because he wasn't showing up. Now he's showing up. And as I said, I think he's just showing up for the camera all of a sudden. Or maybe the camera made him realize he needed to show up, which is quite dumb, in my opinion, as a father. The friend said, you know, the relationship is uneven. You're making Trisha happy. You're saying you're happy in this whole situation. Why? Because he's just and I don't get it either. Why? Why are you so content on how it is when y'all are not moving forward? Y'all playing house, and you still got this person that's able to infiltrate himself in there, which really all it should be is pick up, drop off. Okay, I think her name is Arya. She needs this for that, da 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 da. If he's gonna participate or not, y'all say that you don't really need his help for anything. You've been paying this and that. Then just let him pick up, drop off. You pick up, drop off, and that's that. But it's not like that. It's always drama. I think the Will is saying a lot of good stuff. I think Chris was too. Like, you need to really reprioritize. And just kind of, even if you don't get married to Trisha, at least now there's got to be something solid put into play as to what's going on with this man. Trisha doesn't seem like she wants to be around him, but she's not doing everything possible to get her out of his life. Again, it was easier when he just left and didn't have to deal with nothing. Okay. Scott's 1.0 and 2.0, they meet up and they start talking about this whole Jalen and Maurice Jr. situation. Of course, Marceau is already in on what Jalen's been saying. He's been saying it forever, not forever, but to Marceau already, about the different treatment that he got opposed to Maurice Jr. He says that he understands that. He understands because how Marceau was trying to say is that he thinks that I'm like his father. And he didn't really say that, as Maurice said. He said father figure. Okay. It is a difference. Potato, potato, though. I'm putting it in as that. What was it? Kimmy. This is the part where I really get, not with Kimmy, but let me go on back to Maurice. This is where I always get very frustrated with Maurice. Kimmy said that before Monster moved in with, I didn't mean to say that. Forget I said that. Before Maurice Jr. came into the picture and started living with them, She already brought up to this nugget head that Jalen felt like he was treated different. Maurice, being the blockhead that he is, stubborn, never listens to Kimmy. Kimmy can say something and all that, and it takes God moving mountains for him to actually get what his wife is saying. I don't know how they actually make it. I really don't understand this marriage, because should they be getting along? Yeah. I mean, you don't value your wife's opinion because you are stuck on self, sir. You mean to tell me years ago your wife said this and it's coming back around, and now the son and your brother are saying the same things? And you got excuses. Your excuse is, oh, I was raised this way. Because I think that Maurice is older. He's older than Marceau, even though it always looked like he was. It looked like the roles were reversed, but whatever. He was raised this way. That's why I don't get this old school parenting, because a lot of things in old school parenting are just, it ain't working. But the thing that you always have to do and to be as a child, respect no matter what. Parents don't have to apologize. Parents are not going to apologize. Let's just say that much. Because they think that they are the parent and they are in this role, and you have nothing that you can say. So Marceau goes on to say that, it's hard for anyone to really talk to you. And how he compared Jalen and Maurice Jr.'s relationship is what he feels like between him and Maurice when growing up. And he said one was treated like the golden child and the other was not, or was treated lesser than. At this point, Maurice was like, what are you talking about? You're lying. He's like, no, I'm not lying. So now you say, as far as whatever Jalen told you, you did what you were taught to do. Marceau tells you, you were treated differently than him. And now you're trying to say he's lying. Somebody is telling you their experience, and first you have an excuse, and then now someone else, oh, you're just a liar. Obviously, you learn how to be who you are from someone else, and you can't recognize it, and no matter how many times somebody tells you that this is what's going on with you, you're going to believe whatever. That is pride, and that is arrogance. As I said before in this review, just because someone on the outside has made it work for themselves, they didn't get into trouble, they didn't get into drugs like that, y'all think that these children that you've raised, or the lack thereof, is okay. No. Their mental is probably messed up. Their emotions are probably messed up. All because you think you did the right thing. And not even saying, hey, I think I was a good parent, but I could have been a whole lot better. I don't know. I just have a certain view about parenting. I'm not a parent. But I didn't ask to be here. None of us who were once children asked to be here. God gave you a gift, and for many parents, y'all mishandled it. But it's okay for y'all, because the excuse is you guys were doing the best that you could. Was it? Did you try to improve or be better at it at all? Did you actually become accountable to your children? Can your children even come to you and tell you what's up and how they feel? And can you acknowledge it and respect it, apologize, and do what you need to do on your part to heal that? I just don't get it. I think that parents can get the most slack and still be stuck in, I'm the parent. Whatever. Maurice, I don't know if you're ever going to get it. I don't think you care to get it because you think that you did a good job. Some people say Joe Jackson did a good job because look at where their children ended up in the world. And we see the after effects of even after getting all this stardom, what some of that stuff has done to his children. So y'all can think about that. Some people say, and they do praise their father. They give him honor because if it wasn't for Joe Jackson being so strict on them, they would not have gotten to the place that they are at. And two things could be true at the same time. That's all I got for you, but I think what really stuck out to me was the whole Maurice thing. And again, get that pride. I am praying that something breaks your pride and breaks that arrogance off of you because you're damaging people. I will say this about Maurice Jr. He really don't want to be around you because even though he's treated more as a golden child over Jalen, you don't treat him right either. He would rather be with his mom. But because of this whole standard of a boy needs his dad. True. Y'all live by the standard because you can't raise a man, as the women say, as Keisha Cole said. That could be true, but he actually opens up when his mom, don't you remember when his mom said, you know, would you like it if I moved closer to you? And he lit up. That was what, a season or two ago? He lit up. All you do is have preaching moments with your children on the way to school. Kimmy told you about that, but it's always F Kimmy, but Kimmy be right. And the more Kimmy presses you, the more you want to be something else. And I think it's ridiculous, sir. You have too much brain knowledge to be this so empty inside that you aren't self-aware of anything that's going on with your family. That's all I got. That's all I got. Like this video. Thank you for coming by. Subscribe. Leave your comments. And until next time, peace.